We come from and live on land considered sacred by indigenous people known as Bannock, Paiute, Shoshone, and many other tribes that lived here sustainably for thousands of years. We strive to understand and reframe our responsibilities to land, to community. In the spirit of respectful reciprocity, we honor the original caretakers of this place. We affirm the relationships we have to each other, including our relations to animals and insects that inhabit the water, land, and sky. We recognize the relationship, the responsibility to quiet creeks, rushing rivers, rustling grasses, to sprawling forests, to the brilliant palettes of the sky, to the roots that grip the soil, to the earth beneath our feet. Water is life. To all of us affected by the boarding school revelations, may we be granted compassionate understanding. May we find healing in the harm that lives in our history. We honor and support the right to sovereignty for our indigenous neighbors. We acknowledge that a land acknowledgement is not enough. Now, let us breathe together. Let us take a moment to enjoy the delicious air, the oxygen provided by tree. Hold to the warm light of sun. Consider the solidity, the groundedness of earth. Flow with refreshing, life-giving water. Let the mud settle. Find clarity of mind and spirit. Welcome our ancestors. Enjoy this present moment together.
Welcome, everyone, to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We are a spiritually diverse, justice-seeking community with one great aim: to grow in love. Love for our neighbor, love of ourselves, and love for our planet. I am Rachel Murphy, and I am your celebrant this morning. Welcome as well to those of you out there joining us virtually. Everyone here, if you want to turn to the camera, it's those two big eyes up there, and wave to everybody out there. We also now have the ability to see your beautiful faces here on our screens in the sanctuary. So we invite you, if you're comfortable to do so, to turn your camera on and wave to us here in the sanctuary. And if you're in your pajamas like I often am when I'm watching Zoom, that's all right. You don't need to turn your camera on. Hello, everybody out there. For those of you in the sanctuary, now is also a good time to make sure your phones are in worship mode. If you are seeking something larger than yourself, or are in search of your own heart, you are welcome here. If you believe that all of the religions of the world are right and true, but none is entirely right, nor does any religion have a corner on the market of truth, you are welcome here. If you believe each of us has the right to seek the truth in the possibility of science and religion coexisting together, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, however you identify, however you pray, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. If you are curious about this fellowship or about Unitarian Universalism in general, you are invited to join our Inquirers classes. Today's session is a Q&A with our own Reverend Sarah which will take place in the Channing Room, which is in the south wing after the service. We know that it takes a lot of courage to cross this threshold and enter into a new community, either in person here or if you're joining us virtually. So to our newcomers among us, you are very welcome here. We invite you to introduce yourselves after the service and also in the chat if you are joining us virtually. And please fill out a newcomer card so that we can keep you connected with everything that is happening in our fellowship. I do have a few announcements to highlight for everyone. First, we want to thank our volunteers who helped during Friday's showing of Servetus, the musical, with our own Reverend Dennis McCarty, who will be speaking to us later today. Thank you, all the volunteers who helped set up, take down, put us back in order so that we could have our service today. Our hospitality team, who is ready to welcome you after the service in our hospitality room, are Julia Pope and Patty Hedges. Thank you very much for doing this service for us. And finally, we have our booth census. You must have received an email about this. This is for members and friends. We are hoping to get 100% participation so that we can understand who all is joining us, how you may wish to serve or be more engaged with us. So please do fill out that survey as soon as you can. Our fellowship donates 25% of our unpledged plate offering to support a local organization whose mission aligns with our social justice ministries. We choose someone different each month, and for the month of October, the organization is the Boise chapter of the Citizens Climate Lobby. Citizens Climate Lobby is a climate change organization that exists to create the political will for a livable world by engaging individual breakthroughs in the exercise of personal and political power. We now have returned to having a time during our service when you can give an offering here in person, and I'll also talk to you out there about how you can give at that point as well. Our spiritual theme for this month is vision. The worship leaders who developed the vision for this month's services wanted a physical representation of the theme to add to our liturgy. They envisioned a chancel center of interest that would invite everyone to participate in the creation of a sculpture representing the many ways that we as a congregation and individually encounter the divine through our everyday lives. This is inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh's invitation to half smile when you first awake, to hang a branch or any other sign, or even just the word smile on the ceiling or the wall so that you see it right away when you open your eyes. Nancy Harms and Mark Zimmerer have created this beautiful loom for us to add to. So if you are so inspired at any point, you are welcome to even do so now during the service, but at any time before or after or during the week, if you wish to add something to this beautiful loom, please feel free to do so. For today's exploration of vision, we are grateful to have the Reverend Dennis McCarty here to lead us in envisioning how religious language can be a unifying rather than a divisive expression of our inner riches. Reverend McCarty graduated from Meadville Lombard Theological School in 2003 and was called to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Columbus, Indiana. He retired in 2015 and is now their minister emeritus. Over the years, he has written novels, songs, nonfiction books, plays, magazines articles, and a lot of sermons. As some of you may know firsthand, on October 20th, he presented the one-person version of his play, Servetus, the radical Reformed musical, right here. Welcome, Reverend McCarty. Thank you for bringing your creativity to our fellowship. As we enter into this time of worship, let us take a moment to breathe together. Fill your body with breath, knowing that our breath connects us to one another, to our bodies, and to our planet. Our breath offers us the opportunity for stillness, to tune in to our spiritual center and listen deeply to our heart's own longing. As I read the poem Second Person Intimate by the Reverend Dr. Kendall Gibbons, I invite you this morning to hear the thous and thines as that unifying life force that connects us all, regardless of our beliefs. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-riven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep, past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
One of my personal liberal religious dreams and visions is that we religious liberals should reclaim some words that have been kind of appropriated by more conservative traditions. And one of those words is mystery. One of my favorite theological publications is Scientific American magazine, and it's full of mystery. Whether you're talking the centers of distant stars or the centers of the human cell, the sulfur vents at the bottom of the ocean, the world is full of beloved mysteries. So that's one word I would like to rehabilitate for us. Beloved mystery. Whoop. We'll try playing it in the right key. That's even better. The stars hang out upon the night to shower us with mystic light. The ancient sages would relate the stars were gods to venerate. They sacrificed and offered prayers to Venus, Jupiter, and Mars. Now any telescope can view more wonder than the ancients knew. Hey there, simple miracle exceed the idols of antiquity. May open eyes awake to see the world's beloved mystery. Beloved mystery. Beloved mystery. Surrounding love is in the air of faithful friends and mated pairs. Fulfillment lies in breathing free, enveloped by the mystery. Hey there, simple miracles exceed the idols of antiquity. It's not enough to bend the knee, you gotta live that mystery. Beloved mystery. Beloved mystery. The miracles of earth and sky, uncharted deep where oceans lie, the strife and the tranquility of this beloved mystery. Hey there, simple miracles exceed the idols of antiquity. Let open eyes rejoice to see sublime beloved mystery. Beloved mystery. Beloved mystery. Beloved mystery. Beloved mystery. Blessed be.
Thank you, Dennis. What a treat to have a singer-songwriter perform his own work. Each week, we light our flaming chalice. This is a symbol of our free faith, a beacon of hope, love, and justice. We join in this lighting in solidarity and community with thousands of other Unitarian Universalists lighting chalices today in churches, homes, and virtual worship spaces, reminding us that we are connected to one another and to a larger community of faith and love. This morning, we have a first-time chalice lighter, Dennis McCarty. As Dennis lights the chalice here in our sanctuary, I invite those of you at home who have a chalice nearby to go ahead and light it with us and share in the chat where your chalice is lit. Very well done, Dennis. With our collective chalices lit in all of our spaces, we offer you this call to worship, Out of Our Yearning, by the mystic, author, and UU minister, Susan Maker Seal.
We speak to the God, the goddess, the spirit of life, the eternal.
We speak to the mysterious thread that connects us, one to the other, and to the universe.
We speak to the deep wisdom at the center of our beings.
We embody the yearning of all people to touch each other more deeply, to hear each other more keenly.
To see each other's joys and sorrows as our own and know that we are not alone unless we create solitude for ourselves, and even then, community awaits us.
Out of our yearning, we have come to this religious community.
May we help each other to proclaim the possibilities we see, to create the community we desire, to worship that which is worthy in our lives, to teach the truth as we know it, and to serve with justice in all the ways we can, to the end that our yearning is assuaged and our lives fulfilled in one another.
Come, let us worship together. We are now going to move into our time for all ages, and as we do, I invite those of you who are younger members of our congregation to come forward. Of course, anyone can. Anyone who wishes to hear the story up close may come forward, and I am going to read the story to you, and we'll also see it up on our screen. Thank you for coming down forward where I can see you a little bit better. It's nice to have so many youth here with us. And if you want, you can look there for the pictures that we're going to have in the story. So this story this morning is called Good People Everywhere. It's by Linnea Gillen and illustrator Christina Swarner. This is going to help us explore how we practice our faith by showing up for other people. Our helping hands are the doorway to our caring, justice-loving faith. Today, in neighborhoods all over the world, millions and millions of people are doing very good things. Today, carpenters are building fences and houses. Maybe they're even building looms. They're repairing homes that have been damaged by storms. Today, moms and dads and other caregivers are cooking dinner for their families, and cooks are working in kitchens, making meals for people who don't have homes. Doctors and midwives are delivering babies and gently passing them into the eager arms of their parents. We even have some in the congregation awaiting some babies today. Teachers are teaching math, spelling, and reading skills. Musicians are opening their hearts and playing beautiful music. We definitely have that going on in our congregation today. Dancers are leaping across dance floors, practicing performances that will bring joy to their friends, their families, and their communities. Are any of you dancers? Yes, okay, so you know what that's like. Today, people are planting seeds, picking fruits and vegetables, and driving them to grocery stores all around the world so you can have a juicy, ripe orange in your lunch. Today, a child is trying her very best to do well on her science test, and a teenage boy is helping a young child who is sad and lonely. A big sister is holding her baby brother while her mother runs across the street to help a neighbor. Today, millions and millions of people will do very good things. And so will you. I wonder what good things you will do today. And this is something that you are going to be able to explore in your religious exploration classes. Those who are grades 6 through 12 will meet in the south hallway, which is down this way. And those who are 5 years old through 5th grade are going to meet in the north hallway. And anyone remaining in the sanctuary, you are welcome to work on some activities which are located in the cart right back there. And so now, hold a moment, we're going to sing you off. Join me in singing our children and youth off to their classes, and we are going to sing our community blessing, and it's live. We are now going to have our live and in-person offering, which we have brought back. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and this sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. Today, we are going to share these gifts with our plate partner, Citizens Climate Lobby, as one way of living out our vision for the world. There are many ways that you can make a financial gift in addition to dropping some in the offering baskets. You can scan the QR code that's here on our screen, and that'll take you right to our online giving page. You can visit our website at boiseuu.org and click Give in the right top corner, or you can use the Vanco app on your smartphone. For those of you who are online, we'll drop a link in the chat. However you choose to give, you nurture our community, and we are grateful. I invite the ushers. They've already anticipated this, and they've already been coming forward, and thank you. Our offering will be gratefully received.
Thank you.
Joseph Campbell writes in The Power of Myth, "One of our problems today is that we are not well acquainted with the literature of the spirit. We're interested in the news of the day and the problems of the hour. And when you get older, the concerns of the day have all been attended to, and you turn to the inner life. Well, if you don't know where it is or what it is, you'll be in a bit of trouble. Greek and Latin and biblical literature used to be part of everyone's education. Now, when these were dropped, the whole tradition of Occidental mythological information was lost. It used to be that these stories were in the minds of people, and when the story is in your mind, then you see its relevance to something happening in your own life. It gives you perspective on what is happening to you. With the loss of that, we've really lost something because we don't have a comparable literature to take its place. These bits of information from ancient times built civilizations and informed religions over the millennia, dealt with deep inner problems, inner mysteries, inner thresholds of passage. You need to know the guide signs along the way. Read myths. They teach you that you can turn inward and you begin to get the message of the symbols. Read other people's myths, not just those of your own religion. And we do have our own myths, because you intend to interpret your own religion in terms of facts. But if you read the other ones, you begin to get the message. Myth helps to put your mind in touch with the experience of being alive. It tells you what that experience is.
Each week, we take a moment to acknowledge the many joys among us and to grieve our many sorrows and losses, so that we might lift that burden for each other and receive the blessing of this community. It is through our sharing with one another that we forge deep bonds of community and connection. I'll begin by sharing some joys and sorrows that have been sent in to us. John Tesnoladic writes, "Last month, my extraordinary 86-year-old mother had an aneurysm and underwent experimental brain surgery. It was successful, and she was even able to attend her granddaughter's wedding within 24 hours of her discharge." So, John, thank you for sharing that joy with us. Lori Peterson says that she's grieving the passing of her father, Robert Henry Peterson, at age 95. They had a complicated relationship, but she sends this in love. And Anne McClanahan says, "Please send kind and hopeful thoughts her way as she is experiencing health issues herself. She's hopeful that Monday's MRI will reveal more information." Our thoughts are with you, Anne. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to speak their name aloud if you are comfortable doing so, bringing it into this community of love so that we may hold them with you. May the arms of this community hold all of these names, those who are named and those that remain silent, close to our hearts. May we feel the grace that surrounds us and be transformed by the spirit of life and love, with warmth to celebrate our joys and gentleness to soothe our aching hearts. Breathe with me again now. Fill your body with your breath. Breathe into this sacred space. Breathe with this beloved community, filled with loving kindness. Breathe with wholeheartedness and listen for a moment to what is calling you in this silence. We will now have some music for reflection.
So this is a rewording of How Great Thou Art. And you're all invited to sing along on the chorus, which is the high part. So sing along, please. Observe the world with spirit permeated, or contemplate the heartbeat's steady pace. To so reflect, one can but feel elated by all that lives and moves and has a place. The universe compels us all to sing, to celebrate this force of life, the miracle, the stream of living things. We live in awe, this force of life. From spreading plain to frozen mountain fastness, from breathless awe of deep reflective mood, from windy heights unto the ocean's vastness, more quickening than can be understood. The universe compels us all to sing, to celebrate this force of life, the miracle, the stream of living things. We live in awe, this force of life, this web of life in one vast congregation, so teems with creatures greatest down to small. The wonder lies beyond imagination or easy words in witnessing it all. This universe compels us all to sing, to celebrate this force of life, the miracle, the stream of living things. We live in awe, this force of life. Thank you.
Rewriting lyrics is an important part of the folk tradition, actually, and if it annoys Garrison Keillor, so be it. On to more serious topics. It happens all the time. Here's just one of an endless stream of news stories that break the heart. Especially in these days, we're getting a lot of them, but we have always gotten them. In this case, Jerica Bolin of Appleton, Wisconsin, was born with a genetic condition which causes progressive muscular deterioration. She was never able to walk or even stand. As she grew year after year, she lived with increasing pain. And finally, just 14 years old, she and her family decided to stop all treatments and allow her to die. In her obituary, her grieving mother wrote poetically that Jerica now had angel's wings, and that the cord God had constructed between mother and daughter still held. And the mother closed by bidding Jerica to have fun up in heaven, doing all those splits and dance moves her condition never allowed her to do while she was alive, close quote. Now, as a parent and as a human being, I ache every time I read something like this. To me, for a mother to even be coherent at such a time is an accomplishment. I don't know if she was taking heaven literally or if she was consciously using the language of metaphor that Joseph Campbell described in this morning's reading. But under the circumstances, either way, I think what she wrote was quite beautiful. We use words in all kinds of different ways. Words can have deep meaning even when the literal truth is doubtful, or deep meaning can actually evolve from untrue words used for nefarious purposes. Which brings us to 900 years ago, and an English courtier called Geoffrey of Monmouth, who wrote some pretty tall tales about England's magical, mythical origins. His best-known book is called The History of the Kings of Britain. According to Geoffrey, England's kings descended from legendary heroes, including Aeneas, the mythical Trojan prince who founded Rome. That meant to Geoffrey, England's kings shared their bloodline with Rome's emperors, which is pretty fast company. Geoffrey was well-read in English folklore, and he picked up characters anywhere he could find them. Celtic mythology had a god called Macnanan MacLear, for example, and Geoffrey used that name, Lear, as one of the kings in his book. Other writers picked up on that name, and hundreds of years later, it became one of William Shakespeare's greatest plays, King Lear. Geoffrey based another king, Cymbeline, on an actual British tribal leader, and that later inspired another Shakespearean play, not quite as well known. But the mightiest of the kings in Geoffrey's book was named Arthur. According to Geoffrey, Arthur's father was a king named Uther Pendragon. With magical help from a sorcerer in his court named Merlin, Uther Pendragon seduced a noblewoman named Igerna to Geoffrey, and that's how Arthur was born. And according to Geoffrey, this all happened while Britain was still part of the Roman Empire. But the empire had begun to collapse, and Germanic tribes, the Angles and Saxons, invaded Britain. They spread death and destruction, and Merlin disappeared, and then the Saxons poisoned Uther Pendragon, and young Arthur became king. In Geoffrey's story, Arthur wields a magical sword he calls Caliburn, and despite his youth, Arthur masses a mighty army and drives the Saxons from Britain. Then he crosses the English Channel and conquers Gaul, the Roman name for France. He's the mightiest king in Europe now, defeating armies from as far away as Greece and Spain. And Arthur is about to march on Rome to be crowned emperor himself when he learns that back in Britain his nephew, Mordred, has rebelled and declared himself king. Arthur returns. They fight a great battle and kill one another. With Arthur out of the way, the Saxons return and conquer the whole island. And at the end of Geoffrey's book, many Britons flee to Gaul, where they settle the provinces of Brittany and Normandy, which is ruled by Arthur's cupbearer, Sir Bedivere. But one of Merlin's prophecies, also included in this book, states that the true Britons will someday return from Gaul. They will take their blessed homeland back from the Angles and Saxons and rule once again. Now, we don't know exactly where Geoffrey got the character he called Arthur. Ancient Welsh sagas do mention that name, but scholars quarrel over whether that was the source for Geoffrey's King Arthur. Some scholars do think his Arthur was based on a real person. After all, the Angles and Saxons really did invade Roman Britain, and one Briton leader named Reothamus did apparently win a battle against them. He then did travel to Gaul to fight on Rome's side against the Goths, but he was killed in battle in Gaul about 470 AD, which is about 15 years before Rome's empire in the West collapsed completely. But real history is not what mattered to Geoffrey. His patron was the Earl of Gloucester, whose grandfather, William of Normandy, had invaded and conquered Anglo-Saxon England 50 years earlier to become William the Conqueror. And William's Norman nobles had seized farm and field and city and replaced Anglo-Saxons in every high office in the land, and 2 generations later, the Anglo-Saxons still hated them. Geoffrey's interest was not historical, it was political. His book was propaganda. The upshot of his history was that the Angles and Saxons were the real invaders, and the descendants of the true kings of Britain, that is, William the Conqueror and his Norman henchmen, had simply returned to reclaim their birthright. It was theirs all along. Shameless spin, 12th century style. During Geoffrey's lifetime, England was ruled by William's son, Henry I. Henry had started out as a younger son with no inheritance, so even becoming king took some serious doing. But Henry had been up to the task. He was one of the most ruthless politicians who ever lived. His older brother, William Rufus, William II, had followed William the Conqueror as king, but William Rufus just happened to get killed in a hunting accident, shot with an arrow, while Henry just happened to be visiting London in perfect position to seize the treasury and the throne as soon as news arrived that King William II had been accidentally killed. In Geoffrey's book, Britain was founded by a great Roman hero who was on the lam because he had accidentally shot and killed his father with an arrow while out hunting. Now, Geoffrey calls this hero Brutus and claims that the very origin of the land's name, Britain, comes from the name Brutus. And all this cannot be coincidence. Geoffrey wrote to give legitimacy and a glorious heritage to his patron's uncle, King Henry. There wasn't a word of truth to any of it. And in fact, a contemporary cleric named Gerald of Wales claimed that Geoffrey's book was so bad it attracted demons. But it became a 12th century version of a bestseller, and no wonder the king and his Norman nobles loved it. Now, all these names and places may be a little confusing. All you really need to remember is that Geoffrey's story about King Arthur is political propaganda written to please England's ruling elite at the time. And the story really caught on. Centuries went by, and poets and storytellers kept improving on it. Merlin was changed from a soothsayer and Uther Pendragon's accomplice in seduction to become Arthur's all-wise mentor. Igerna became Igraine, Arthur's mother. Arthur's sword, Caliburn, became Excalibur. Sir Lancelot and the Lady of the Lake got added. So did Camelot and Sir Parsifal and the Holy Grail. And the whole legend shifted to a specifically Christian motif. In the hands of poets, Geoffrey's blatant propaganda evolved into an aching epic romance, full of wonder, tragedy, human weakness, the human condition, and hope. Arthur's court in Camelot is the ideal chivalric society, but Arthur's queen Guinevere betrays him with Sir Lancelot, leaving Arthur too weakened to overcome Mordred's rebellion. Arthur's golden age collapses in human folly, but there's still hope. When the time is right, Arthur will return, and the golden age will be restored. That's a common mythological motif. Mythologies from around the world are full of paradises that got lost, often because of the actions of some woman. Sigh. More than 4,000 years ago, the Epic of Gilgamesh told about the immortal, all-powerful wild man, Enkidu. But Enkidu falls in love with a woman who tames him and makes him mortal. Greek myth tells how humanity began literally as a golden race, but then because every son is worse than his father, we degraded to silver, then to bronze, then to iron, then flesh. And related, of course, is the myth of Pandora, which tells how good life was until Pandora's curiosity set loose all the evils of the world. But we still have hope. And it's worth mentioning that Pandora, that the story emerged pretty contemporary with the story of Adam and Eve. They're very similar stories, and they have very similar sources. And that does bring us to Adam and Eve, who live blissfully in the Garden of Eden until Eve disobeys God and picks the forbidden fruit, and because of that, they're driven out into a harsh world, etc., etc. Jesus is betrayed, suffers, and dies to atone for their sins and ours, and will someday return and usher in a new golden age. Now, to say the least, I doubt that any of these stories happened the way they've been handed down to us. And yet, each of them does express in its own way something poignant about our innermost feelings. We've all lost something and longed to get it back. Often so deeply felt, it's difficult for us to even express it, even to ourselves. In a very real way, at their best, myths help us understand our deepest feelings. One liberal religious writer, the late great story evangelist Michael Dowd, tells about what he calls day language and night language. Day language is the language of fact and analysis about what can be seen, felt, described, and measured. It can tell you that I was born in Grand Junction, Colorado in 1950, and that I weighed 6 pounds, 14 ounces. But it cannot tell you the leaping joy in my heart sometimes and the empty longing in my soul others. That takes night language, which is the language of metaphor and transcendence. So does a grieving mother's image of her dead daughter with angels' wings tied to her with a golden cord, having fun up in heaven, dancing in a way she was too sick to dance ever in life. That's night language. And if we go back to the King Arthur story, we can trace the way it evolved from over the centuries, from history to propaganda to myth, and from day language to night language. We know that Angles and Saxons really did invade Roman Britain sometime after 410 AD. We know the Britons fought back. They may well have won a major victory about 460, which slowed the invaders down. A war leader named Rheotimus may have fought that battle, and we do know that he was killed in Gaul about 10 years later. We don't know for sure if he was Arthur, but there definitely are historical facts we can try to sort out. 600 years later, Geoffrey of Monmouth came along and told a fanciful story about Roman Britain and a king he called Arthur. And we might not know his exact sources, but we absolutely do know enough facts about his own time. We can understand what he was trying to accomplish with that story. Another 300 years after that, Sir Thomas Malory wrote The Morte d'Arthur. And of Arthur's death and resting place he says, and I'm quoting, "Yet some men say in many parts of England that King Arthur is not dead, but had by the will of our Lord Jesus journeyed into another place. And men say that he shall come again, and he shall win the Holy Grail. And many men say that there is written upon his tomb this verse, Here lies Arthur, the once and future king." And when I read Malory's words, they don't factually connect with me in any way, and yet I still feel touched and moved by the sense of loss and also the sense of hope that they contain. The bereaved soul in me weeps just a little and is also healed just a little. By Malory's time, the story has entered the realm of night language. We're human, we have weaknesses, we can't keep bad things from happening and death from winning in the end. And myths like Arthur play on the longing and hope in our own hearts and connect us with our fellow members of the human family, living and dead. They open us to the joys, fears, and longings people felt thousands of years before we were even born. And they wait centuries for us to come along, and then they gather us in with all our human kinfolk, living and dead. With Adam and Eve, and maybe even with Arthur, it may be longing for the womb we were pushed out of or for the childhood we had to leave behind and can never return to. Maybe it's the longing for someone dear to us who has died. We feel these things because we were pre-wired to feel them, and the language of myth wraps a story around them that we can share, so that in a way, they can help give us the gift of our own feelings, as Campbell claims. In a world that often does not want to talk about feelings, myth gives us stories we can wrap those feelings around. The problem comes when we try to treat night language as though it were day language. For example, the Adam and Eve story is magnificent myth, deeply beautiful and meaningful. On one level, it's a brilliant expression of humanity's real historical shift from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to an agricultural lifestyle. It's also a psychological allegory of that moment when each of us realizes the world doesn't revolve around us and that the person we depend on can hurt us. When we long for a babyhood and a kind of simplicity and support that have gone forever. But if we treat this myth as literal history, we're missing the point of what it does for us. Even if we treat it as literal false history, we're still missing the point. We turn it into something the original storyteller never intended and probably wouldn't particularly like. And on the other hand, if we ignore it completely, we miss out on a multi-level story about us told from the inside. Father Lincoln Ure was the Episcopal priest under whom I first studied hospital chaplaincy. He once told us about a patient who made it plain he didn't believe in God. "Well, which God don't you believe in?" Link asked. "Well, I sure don't believe in some magical man who sits on a throne up in heaven and controls the world and has a bad temper and speaks Elizabethan English." "Oh," Link, the Episcopal priest, replied, "I don't believe in that one either." But what if the word God just means everything in the universe, along with everything we know and also everything we don't know about the universe? Officially atheist though I am, I could buy into that one. So could Einstein. He used that word, the word God, pretty readily, but that's what he meant by it. Of course, a person might reply, as some science writers, including Richard Dawkins, sometimes do, fine, but that's not really God. In other words, Richard Dawkins and also Christopher Hitchens, they're folks who they know what God they don't believe in, and don't you dare try to tell them that God could possibly be anything different. But here's the point. No word, not even God, has any meaning other than the meaning we give it. So I totally get what Michael Dowd says about day language and night language. The very word, God, is night language. It can mean a flower petal falling on the evening breeze. It can also mean, if you live in Indiana, the terror of a tornado throwing a tree into the side of your house. But to say that as a religious person, I have to put certain words down forever and never use them at all is to say that I'm going to put down poetry and express my religious sentiments only with slide rule and measuring tape. And I won't do that. I like both poetry and measuring tapes. I do believe that facts are facts, and that life is life, and that death is death. But a word like God, for example, is best thought of, I think, as a question. And then it can open us up to the full breadth of life and culture without closing us to new ideas and experiences. And I'm also a romantic. I'm a sucker for hope. And if a grieving mother in Wisconsin says that her daughter now has angel's wings and can enjoy and express herself in death in ways that she couldn't in life, I'm not going to tell that woman she's wrong. Gentle atheist that I try to be, I might even offer up a little silent prayer that she's right. Amen. May it be so.
Let us enter into a spirit of meditation on the wonderful stories and lessons that we just heard. You may close your eyes and get comfortable in your chair however you wish. Much of our human struggle is with what we do not know or understand. It is often difficult not to want answers, or even more difficult, not to think we have them already. May we experience what we do not know, not as an individual failure, but as an invitation to community. May we seek not the true answers so much as the true questions, knowing that true questions, like night language, make of our lives more meaningful, even if they become more restless journeys. May we be grateful for the restlessness. We will take a few moments just to listen to those restless questions that bring about the night language in our own minds. May we be good company to one another as we wrestle with these restless questions. So may it be. Now, as you come back into the room, we are going to move into our closing song. And you are welcome to rise in body or spirit And we're going to sing from our hymnals, and we will have the words up as well. This is hymn number 343, A Fire Mist and a Planet.
As a community of mutual seekers striving to evoke the belovedness of each, I invite all to place hands over heart for our closing blessing. From far galaxies plentiful as grains of sand to the earth on which we dwell, we are surrounded by wonder which transcends all we can say about it. May we be humble before the immensity of it all. May our spirits be guided not by some truth we think we know, but by questions we can ask. May we rejoice and reflect in the gift of each day and not forget those who will come after us. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. We carry those in our hearts and strive to share them with the world. Blessed are we all. Go in peace.
I leave my phone